Let me kind of just go through the different types of securities. Initially for the founder, so let's say it's yourself and maybe one, two, three friends of yours, what you're initially going to do is issue yourselves common stock. And that's pretty straightforward. You have to at least initially have the so-called come to Jesus meeting where you decide, okay, we're going to form this company. Who's going to own what percentage of the common stock and what is being contributed for the consideration for this stock? It's usually a combination of some cash, but many times founders are short on cash, big on ideas. So what they often will do is contribute intellectual property, things that they've developed in the business, and that those assets will be contributed into the corporation in exchange for the equity, in this case, common stock of the company. The other type of stock that is often issued, but not to the founders, is so-called preferred stock. Preferred because it has preferences. And in the term sheet, I don't know if we have time for that, I can sort of give some thoughts on that. But a term sheet from either an angel group or a venture capital group will most likely be preferred stock, and it will have preferences such as liquidation preferences, hence the name preferred stock. And what a liquidation preference is in the event the company is sold, and it's more downside protection. The investors that hold preferred stock would get their money out first or in preference to the common stockholders. Now it gets more complex than that, but that preference typically comes into play as a protective provision where if the company has not done well, and it's a sort of the company is sold at a value that is not very good, they can get their money out before common stock shareholders get anything. And in that scenario, many times, quite honestly, there is nothing left for common stockholders. So it's protection. But don't lose sight of the fact that preferred stock is behind debt. If the company has debts or has borrowed money, the creditors get paid back first before the preferred stockholders. The preferred stockholders get paid back before the common stockholders. There's also another type of what I'll call preferred stock that you might have heard of that you see quite a bit of as well. It's called Series Seed, S-E-E-D, Series Seed Preferred. What Series Seed Preferred is, and you can Google that, and there's even form documents for it. Series Seed is kind of like preferred stock light, where you have preferences, but the amount of preferences and the bells and whistles that typically go with the preferred stock financing are reduced, truncated, they're less. The reason for it, I think, is one is to keep costs down. Remember, it's a young startup company, and nobody that I've run into enjoys paying legal fees, including myself when I have to pay them. So we get that. So there's always this push to find ways to make it easier and less expensive for young companies to raise capital. When you're raising capital from investors, be it again, angels, VCs, even friends and family, many times you'll see that what the company is actually offering is a hybrid instrument, convertible debt. Okay, what does that mean? What convertible debt is, it says, I'll use an example. I'm going to invest, I'll say $100,000 into your startup company. It's a loan, it's debt, but that debt is convertible into equity upon certain things occurring. Well, like what? Primarily, it's if there is a subsequent round of financing, I, the convertible note holder, can convert my debt into that equity. I have that choice. And so a lot of investors like using convertible debt. Another reason why convertible debt is oftentimes used is when you have your initial outside investors, there's always, well, what is my company worth? If I put in my example, $100,000, what percentage of the company do I get? Many times the wide-eyed and very aspirational entrepreneur will say, this is just a fabulous technology or a fabulous business. It's worth X. Investor will say, I hope you're right, but statistics tell me that most companies, quite honestly, do not succeed. And in fact, there's many risks associated with this business. So I think the company is worth Y. So a convertible debt instrument puts off that decision making on what the valuation is. What it says is, I, the note holder, can convert into equity in the next round of financing, which is a priced round, where we'll let the bigger money, the more professional investors and the company come to a decision on what the valuation of the company is. And my note converts into that. But it converts at a discount to that value. Why? Because I'm taking the risk today on making this investment. So that's my benefit as a convertible note holder, that I get a discount to the next round. So what you see now many times are what's known as a SAFE, S-A-F-E. And when you get a chance, you may be familiar with them, maybe not. You can Google it. That stands for a simple agreement for future equity, SAFE. What a SAFE is, it's kind of like convertible debt and kind of like equity. And it's interesting from an accounting standpoint, is how do you account for it? Is it debt or equity? And it's a hybrid. But basically it allows the SAFE holder, the investor, can still convert into the next round of financing, but the difference is the SAFE doesn't accrue interest, and there isn't a maturity date, which a convertible note, which is debt, does have. So it doesn't have the same pressure on the company to face down a date when the money is ultimately due and payable, like a debt. So you see SAFEs quite a bit now. I believe Y Combinator, which you're probably familiar with, uses SAFEs for most, if not all, of their companies. In fact, one of my former partners is generally credited with creating the instrument, Ted Wang, who is no longer an attorney. He's actually a venture capitalist at Cowboy Ventures. So it's a pretty unique instrument, and it's widely used. But convertible notes are still used too.